April 4, 1968. Martin Luther King Jr. had just finished delivering a speech in support of striking sanitation workers. The day had been tense, but hope was in the air. He stepped onto the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. People gathered below, unaware that history was about to change forever. A single shot rang out. Dr. King fell, fatally wounded. The world watched in shock as the civil rights leader, the man who had inspired a nation with dreams of justice and equality, was taken in an instant. The city erupted in grief. The nation mourned, and questions began to emerge almost immediately. How could such a public figure, so protected and so revered, be assassinated in blade light? Who truly killed Martin Luther King Jr.? And were there factors behind the scenes that the public would never fully know? This is not a story of myths. It is a story of documented events, unanswered questions, and the shadow of doubt that has lingered for decades. Because understanding what happened that day is not just about remembering history, it is about examining the truth that still echoes today. Within hours of Dr. King's assassination, authorities identified a suspect, James Earl Ray. Ray was a career criminal with a history of prison escapes and a troubled past. According to the official investigation, he fired the fatal shot from a boarding house across from the Lorraine Motel. The narrative seemed straightforward: a lone gunman, motivated by personal and racial animosity, acting alone. Ray was quickly arrested at London's Heathrow Airport 2 months later, trying to flee the country. Under interrogation, he initially confessed, but later recanted, claiming he had been set up. The government's position remained: Ray acted alone. There were no accomplices, no larger conspiracy. But for many, the story felt incomplete. Ray's sudden capture and the simplicity of the official explanation left gaps. Questions emerged. Could a lone man really execute such a precise assassination in a crowded urban area? How did he escape unnoticed after committing such a high-profile crime? Why did Ray later insist he was a patsy? These doubts planted seeds of skepticism that would grow for decades, shaping public opinion and fueling alternative investigations into the assassination. Even the most straightforward facts of the official account leave room for questions, because when a leader of Dr. King's stature is killed, the world demands answers. Long before his assassination, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had been under intense scrutiny by the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director at the time, viewed King as a potential threat to national security. Under the COINTELPRO program, a secret surveillance initiative, the agency monitored King's communications, tracked his movements, and attempted to undermine his influence. FBI files show wiretaps on King's phones, infiltrations of his inner circle, and even attempts to discredit him publicly. Anonymous letters were sent to King, urging him to commit suicide, a chilling attempt to intimidate a prominent leader. While there is no official evidence linking the FBI directly to his assassination, the surveillance created an atmosphere of pressure and hostility. Some historians argue that these operations made King a target for more radical elements. Moreover, the secrecy of these programs fueled suspicion in the public. Why were such measures taken against a man advocating nonviolence and equality? The COINTELPRO documents, declassified decades later, reveal a government wary of social change and willing to use extreme measures to monitor it.
After the assassination on April 4, 1968, James Earl Ray vanished almost immediately. He disappeared into a network of safe houses, traveling through multiple states and even crossing international borders. For 2 months, he evaded law enforcement, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty. Ray's flight ended at London's Heathrow Airport, where he was arrested trying to board a plane to escape the country. Authorities discovered a false Canadian passport and a carefully plotted escape route, indicating that this was not a spur-of-the-moment act. The FBI and local police quickly pieced together his movements. Surveillance photographs, fingerprints, and witness statements helped establish his path. During interrogation, Ray initially confessed to the assassination, but he soon recanted, claiming he had been set up as a scapegoat. This reversal cast a shadow over the official narrative. Questions lingered. Was Ray acting entirely alone, or were there others involved? If he was a lone gunman, how did he plan such a complex escape? Were some authorities complicit in letting him slip through the cracks? Though the government closed the case with Ray as the sole perpetrator, his flight and his subsequent claims added layers of doubt that remain central to public discussion today.
Decades after Dr. King's death, new questions and claims emerged. In 1999, the King family filed a civil lawsuit against Loyd Jowers, a Memphis restaurant owner, and other unknown co-conspirators, alleging a wider conspiracy in Dr. King's assassination. The trial lasted a month. Evidence was presented suggesting that Ray did not act alone and that local authorities, organized crime figures, and even federal agencies may have had some level of involvement. Witnesses testified about suspicious activities in Memphis on the day of the assassination. At the conclusion, the jury ruled in favor of the King family, finding that Jowers and others had conspired to assassinate Dr. King. It is crucial to note this was a civil trial, not a criminal one. No new criminal charges were filed, and many historians remain skeptical of the conclusions. Nevertheless, the verdict fueled debates about what the official investigations may have missed. The 1999 trial reignited public interest, proving that the questions surrounding Dr. King's assassination were far from settled. Following the assassination, the U.S. government acted swiftly to reassure the public. The FBI and local authorities claimed that the case was solved, with James Earl Ray as the lone gunman. The narrative was presented as complete and final. However, over the years, skepticism persisted. Declassified FBI files, COINTELPRO documents, and investigative journalism revealed gaps and inconsistencies. Some critics argued that agencies may have withheld information or failed to investigate leads fully. Presidents, lawmakers, and historians have since acknowledged that there were aspects of the case that were either mishandled or insufficiently explored. Even congressional hearings highlighted unanswered questions, though no criminal charges were pursued beyond Ray. The controversy continues because people struggle to reconcile the official story with the evidence of government surveillance, prior threats, and the complex political climate of the 1960s. For many, understanding Dr. King's assassination isn't just about identifying a shooter. It's about understanding the societal, political, and institutional forces that surrounded his life and death. Even today, documents are still analyzed, and historians debate what really happened.
The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. left a nation in shock, and public opinion has remained divided ever since. Polls show that a significant portion of Americans question whether James Earl Ray acted alone. Many believe that other forces, whether governmental, organized crime, or otherwise, may have played a role. Media, books, documentaries, and films have kept these debates alive. For older generations, who lived through the civil rights era, the death of Dr. King marked not only a national tragedy, but a turning point in American history. Skepticism is fueled by incomplete government disclosures, COINTELPRO's documented harassment, testimonies suggesting possible conspiratorial elements. Dr. King's assassination became more than a historical event. It became a symbol of injustice, distrust, and the fragility of progress. Yet despite the controversies, his legacy endures. His vision of equality and nonviolence continues to inspire millions worldwide. The ongoing debate about the circumstances of his death shows how deeply intertwined memory, history, and justice are. Decades after Dr. King's assassination, certain pieces of evidence remain central to understanding the case. Ballistics reports connecting the bullet to James Earl Ray's rifle, witness statements from the Lorraine Motel and surrounding streets, FBI surveillance files showing Ray's movements before the assassination, COINTELPRO documents revealing extensive government monitoring. Each piece of evidence tells part of the story. Together, they provide a picture of a calculated assassination carried out under complex social and political pressures. Yet gaps remain. Some records were heavily redacted. Others were released only years after legal battles. Historians continue to debate the reliability and interpretation of this material. The evidence demonstrates both what we know and what is uncertain. It shows that while Ray was undoubtedly involved, the broader context, from government surveillance to local dynamics, cannot be ignored. Understanding these facts is essential to appreciating why questions about the assassination persist even after all these years.
Martin Luther King Jr. was more than a symbol. He was a man with a mission. Even in the face of death threats, constant surveillance, and violent opposition, he remained committed to nonviolence and equality. His speeches, marches, and advocacy reshaped America's social fabric. "I have a dream" was not just a line, it was a vision that challenged a nation to confront its own injustices. Reflecting on his assassination forces us to ask deeper questions. How fragile is progress in the face of opposition? How far will some go to resist change? What responsibilities do institutions have to protect leaders and citizens alike? For older audiences who witnessed his life and death, the lessons resonate personally. For younger viewers, they serve as a cautionary reminder that justice often comes at a cost. Remembering Dr. King is not just about mourning his loss, it's about understanding the work that remains unfinished, the courage required to pursue justice, and the vigilance needed to ensure history does not repeat its darkest moments. History rarely gives us perfect answers. What happened on April 4, 1968, at the Lorraine Motel ended a life, but it did not end the questions. The official conclusion names James Earl Ray as the lone gunman. A later civil case pointed towards broader responsibility involving Loyd Jowers and others. Government surveillance programs like COINTELPRO reveal a climate of deep institutional tension. These facts coexist. They do not resolve easily. And perhaps that is why this moment in history still feels unfinished.
But beyond investigations, verdicts, and theories, one truth remains undeniable. Martin Luther King Jr. changed the moral direction of a nation. He spoke of justice without hatred. He confronted violence without becoming violent. And even in his death, his voice continues to challenge the world. The story of his assassination is not only about how he died, it is about what his life demands from us now. To question, to seek truth, to protect justice when it is fragile, and to carry forward a vision that was never meant to belong to just one man. Because history is not only what happened, it is what we choose to remember and what we choose to do next.